Hey everybody, welcome to my albums of the week. I'm going to rebrand this as top 5 albums of the week because I tend to pretty much go into detail about the 5, and anything that's not in the top 5 I'll still mention I've listened to. I did not upload last week because there was almost nothing really I wanted to talk about or review, so if you were curious what my favourite album of the week was, I'd have to give it to Deep Purple's Splat. I wasn't really big on it either. I feel like with Deep Purple, their previous album, equals, I can't remember if it was equals sign, -3, I can't remember. It was some equation sort of title, and I feel like that was a stronger effort than Splat. Splat just kind of feels like one of the more middle grounded albums. Not their worst, I would say, but not really one that I was excited for either, and just kind of found it to drag on a bit. But here we are with the second week of the series, so we're going to see what the best album of the week is. So I'm going to go through 2 records that are in the mentions. One of them I can't really talk about as a top 5 placement because it's an album from 2006. I think you guys know because it's going to be in the title, but yeah, Bring Me the Horizon, Count Your Blessings, Repented. Now this is pretty fun in my opinion. There are a few things I feel that the OG release does better, and I think that might be some of the vocals on some of the tracks. I feel like there's definitely Ollie's input of his more modern screaming technique utilised into it, but when it comes to growls, I still feel like it's still a solid deathcore experience, and the more polished sound does a pretty good job. I would have literally said this is my favourite album of the week, but because it's material to over 20 years ago, I don't really want to consider it part of it. I wouldn't even consider it part of my top 50 albums of the year, because I want to count stuff that was made for this year, not stuff that was made ages ago, because we only really had one new song from this, so yeah, this one was pretty cool. Then we had Ava Under Fire, Villainous. It's just kind of your standard more generic, softer metalcore, which is fine. It's kind of decent, I'd say. I'm not really the biggest fan of this sound much now. I used to be more hooked on it, but credit where credit's due. It does sound fine. It's got a decent coat of polish, and yeah, I honestly think this album's not too bad. Just not really one I'd go out of my way to listen to, probably. So now we're in the top 5. Let's start. Number 5, we have the Rolling Stones' Foreign Tongues. I didn't get into this one as much as I wanted to, but I can respect the fact that the Rolling Stones have been going for what would be their 6th decade of writing music now. It's insane that Rolling Stones have just been going for over 60 years. The members are in their 80s, but they can still make a rock and roll album, and while I'm not the biggest fan of it, I gotta give Foreign Tongues benefit of the doubt. These guys definitely are some of the kings of rock and roll in terms of how they can still bring out some fun songs here and there. Not going to say this album is spectacular because they are way past the peak of their overall sound, but I think this album is still a decent listen. Number 4, we have Show Me the Body Alone Together, an interesting hardcore punk album. It's decent. I feel like it's got some pretty fun songs, but the thing that kind of takes away from it is when you get the slower tracks, they don't quite flow well into each other. I feel like this kind of makes the experience of the album a little harder to digest than a normal hardcore, post-hardcore punk sort of sound, but I can respect the groove on this one. There's still some fun ideas. The energy's great when it's into the more livelier stuff, so I actually think this album's not too bad. Number 3, we have If These Trees Could Talk, The Hidden Hand. For some good post-rock for the year, I'd say this is a pretty good candidate. I honestly like some of the riffs on here. You can get some downright really good guitar work, and sometimes it takes you into this like dreamy escape to it, which is very nice. I've never listened to the band, so this was quite a nice listen. It provided pretty good background music for when I was doing some stuff, and I think that's the main thing I liked about this, is that it's not the best post-rock album, but it is definitely a more than tolerable one, and is very, very beautiful. So I give that one a good benefit out there. Number 2, The Plot in You, with their self-titled album, The Plot in You. So this is a lot of stuff that's been out for a while. I mean, the first 3 songs were released in 2024, under the Volume 1 EP. They dropped 3 volumes, and each of them had 3 tracks, and now the album is out, you only had 1 new song. So we've been basically drip-fed singles into an eventual EP, and now we get 1 new song for the actual release. And I will say though, I feel like this album has got some good experimental ideas, preferably in tracks like Silence. I like the way this one is structured as well. I feel like there's some pretty fun energy build up to how the instrumentals have a distinctive taste, and I gotta be honest, because of the way they've done this EP, feels like they recorded these songs in complete different times, and they probably would have, because it's a split EP. They probably wrote a few songs in a small batch, worked on them, released them, and then did the same for the next one. I don't really like this method of releasing stuff, but if it gives out an interesting take or variety of this album does, then that's pretty decent. But I will say, this album mainly works because of its highs, and then you've also got other tracks that aren't quite as good. Songs like Forgotten definitely are some of the better ones, but then there's a few I feel like just kind of drag it down a little bit. But as a whole, the album is still pretty solid. So yeah, number 2. And finally, my favourite album of the week, the album of the week pick is DevilDriver Strike and Kill. DevilDriver has never really been able to intrigue me as much as their debut. I don't know, I just never really saw this band click with me, and someone told me to listen to their debut, and I quite liked it, but I just kind of wish we had a bit more of that. And I gotta say, I'm quite surprised with this one. When looking at the fact we had this kind of weird first Sona on the album art, I was kind of a bit intrigued, but also skeptical of what to experience. But the album as a whole delivers a pretty fun, harsh, loud metalcore experience, and I love the hooks, the refrains on this one. There's some great guitar work. The energy just feels right at home with what I like with DevilDriver in the first place, and I think what we get here is DevilDriver just basically pulling all the stops, just foot deep down on the gas pedal, and we have got this pretty fun record. All the cylinders being fired. This is the type of shit that I think works really well for DevilDriver. I don't know what it is, I've just never really been huge on them, but I can give the album credit where credit's due. This one is pretty good. I mean, it's my favourite album of the week by far, I'd say. DevilDriver here, yeah, this one's solid. Strike and Kill is just non-stop good times. I do think the last song is a little bit weaker than the rest, but I mean, I'm not really too bothered by that, because I'm still probably going to listen to the full album whenever I go into it anyway, because it's a pretty solid experience. So that is my albums of the week. I'm going to try and get this one out the same day I've posted it, because I'm going to be busy Wednesday and Thursday, as I'm going to see System of a Down in London. So hope you all enjoy. Thanks so much for watching, and see you in the next video.